And it is halftime of the OU TCU game where the Sooners are on top 42-16. The I've been my brother's at the game. I've been texting back and forth with him um, about the game, and I got to tell you, when the Sooners started off really good, jumped up, first drive they um, scored a touchdown, was up 7-0, um, and the defense had played okay, but you know TCU hadn't scored yet. TCU punts the ball. The returner Gavin Freeman, for whatever reason, decided that it would be a good idea to just jump on the ball that is moving, and he muffed it, and TCU got it, and it gave them some momentum. They go down and get a touchdown, miss the field goal, miss extra point, so it's 7-6. Sooners come right back, take the lead, extend their lead up to 14-6. But TCU drives right back down the field. It makes it 14-13. And at that time, I was a little worried simply because these the defense wasn't playing very good. There were several players for TCU that was running wide open. There was a wheel route in particular that the running back came out, and the corner there was two receivers over there, the receiver and that running back from the wheel route. And if the quarterback looks up and sees the running back wide open, it's a touchdown because there was nobody else there in the secondary. And there was a couple other plays that the quarterback just missed on. Right there at the end of the first half, they had two receivers open for touchdowns, and he overthrows them. So if TCU has better quarterback play today, if they had Max Duggan, who graduated last year, it's a different ball game. But they don't have Max Duggan today. They don't have a better quarterback, and the Sooners are way in control of this game. I don't see any way that TCU climbs their way back into this game. It is, it is just so one-sided. The defense is not playing great by far. They're playing good, but they're not playing great. But OU's offense is playing great. They have looked unstoppable. I don't believe we punted at all. Let me look on some stats here real quick of the ball game. Let's see here. Let's see if we punted at all. And we did punt once. We punted once. Oh, that's right. We did punt once. I remember. That was a great punt, 48 yards. All right. So let's take a look at the stats while we're at it. And here's another interesting stat. At the end of the first quarter, TCU had 31 offensive plays to OU's 14. They had twice as many, and the score was 14-13. OU had and early, like in the second possession or first possession of second quarter, OU already had three receivers that had caught a pass of 50 yards or more. OU was making big plays, having big plays, while TCU was just trying to grind the ball out. And, OU's defense was playing okay, wasn't playing great. But OU's offense, like I said, been playing really good. Let's take a look at the stats here. We'll start with TCU. Josh Hoover's 18 of 34 for 155 yards. That's a 4.6 average. He's got one touchdown, no interception. Part of the reason he's got no interception because he's throwing the ball so high, even the defenders can't get to it. The running back game, overall, they've ran the ball 19 times for 66 yards. That's a 3.5 average and one touchdown. I'm sorry, my nose is itching over here. Amani Bailey, leading rusher for TCU, carried the ball 13 times for 50 yards, 12 was his longest. It seemed like he had longer runs than that. Receiving, JoJo Earl has caught 2 passes for 54 yards and a touchdown. 48 was his longest. Jared Wiley, their tight end, 5 catches for 27 yards. Overall, they fumbled the ball once but didn't lose it. The leading tackler is Jamal Hodge, who's 7 of them, 3 solo. And he's also got 1.5 sack and a pass deflection. He's already had a hell of a game first half. Now the OU stats. Dylan Gabriel, 14 of 23, 278 yards. That's a 12.1 average and 2 touchdowns. Rushing, Gavin Sawchuk carried the ball 8 times for 71 yards, 8.9 average, and 2 touchdowns. 41 is his longest. Tawee Walker carried the ball 4 times for 28 yards. That's a 7-yard average and a touchdown. 11 was his longest. Dylan Gabriel's carried the ball 3 times for 6 yards, 2-yard average, 1 touchdown, and 8 was his longest. Receiving, Nick Anderson caught 4 passes for 97 yards, 24.3 average, 50 was his longest. Jaden Gibson, 2 catches for 76 yards, 38 average, 1 touchdown, 59 was his longest. And on that touchdown, he was dragging a defender into the end zone. Drake Stoops caught 5 passes for 37 yards. Now, I said earlier they showed a stat where you had 3 receivers of 50 yards. It must have got called back on a penalty, and I missed that because they're not showing a third guy with a 50-yard reception. So that must not have been true. Leading tackler, Kendall Dolby for the Sooners, 7 tackles, 4 of them solo, and a tackle for loss. Gentry Williams has 5, 3 solo. Kip Lewis has 5, 2 solo. Billy Bowman has 5, 1 solo. And the Sooners only have 1 sack on the day. It shows the team. I'm not seeing an individual who it is. So they must, I don't know. I don't know who they gave it to. I'm not seeing who it went to. So great first half for the Sooners. They really, the second half, just keep doing what they're doing. I don't see any way the Sooners can lose this game. Even if like the offense doesn't score, doesn't even move the ball, way that their quarterback is playing, they're gonna have to throw the ball. He just not hitting receivers. Now, if he starts hitting receivers, there have been some open ones. Who knows? Maybe, just maybe, they start scoring points and come back in the game. I don't know. I don't see it happening, though. Hey, if you're online, leave us a comment. Tell me what you think of the game. Tell me what you think of the Sooners' performance, what you think of the game. So let's take a look at some scores going on right now. What the heck's going on? There we go. All right, other scores in the game or today. Iowa is beating Nebraska 10-7 early in the third. Miami is beating Boston College 28-7 early in the third. Memphis is beating Temple 28-14 early in the third. Toledo is beating Central Michigan 10-0 about almost halfway through the third. And Akron is beating Ohio 14-3 early in the third. Other games coming today. After this game, we got UTSA at Tulane, Utah State at New Mexico, Missouri and Arkansas will play at 3 o'clock. Air Force and Boise State also play at 3 o'clock tonight. Texas Tech and Texas. I know the Sooner fans will be rooting for Texas Tech in that one. Penn State at Michigan State at 6:30, and for all those playoff teams hoping for playoffs, we got one tonight. Oregon State and Oregon. For those teams trying to squeeze in the playoffs, I know they're rooting for Oregon State. All right. Matchups tomorrow at 11 o'clock. The big one, Ohio State at Michigan. That's going to be a good one. I'm going to definitely have my eyes in on that one. Kentucky at Louisville. Texas A&M at LSU, Indiana at Purdue, Middle Tennessee at Sam Houston, UConn at Massachusetts, Pittsburgh at Duke, Houston at UCF, Navy at SMU, Troy at Southern Miss, Northern Illinois at Kent State, Miami, Ohio at Ball State. All of those games start at 11. At 12 o'clock, you got, and these are Central Times, by the way. So 12 o'clock Central Time, you got Florida Atlantic at Rice. At 1 o'clock Central, you got Wake Forest at Syracuse, Tulsa at East Central, UAB at North Texas, Georgia State at Old Dominion. At 2 o'clock, you got Western Kentucky at Florida International, Colorado at Utah, Louisiana Monroe at Louisiana, San Jose State at UNLV, 2:30, Iron Bowl, Alabama at Auburn, Arizona at Arizona State, and then the Sooners are really going to be watching BYU at Oklahoma State. If BYU wins tomorrow, the Sooners are going to Arlington. Vanderbilt will play at Tennessee, Liberty at UTEP, Northwestern at Illinois, Wisconsin at Minnesota, Maryland at Rutgers, Virginia Tech at Virginia, Georgia Southern at Appalachian State, James Madison at Coastal Carolina, Arkansas State at Marshall, the Apple Cup at 3 o'clock tomorrow, Washington State at Washington, Jacksonville State at New Mexico State, both those games at 3. Then tomorrow night at 6, you got Florida State at Florida, Notre Dame at Stanford, West Virginia at Baylor, South Alabama at Texas State, and at 6:30, you'll have Georgia at Georgia Tech, Clemson at South Carolina, Kansas at Cincinnati, Charlotte at South Florida, and at 7, Iowa State at Kansas State, North Carolina at North Carolina State. Then at 8 o'clock, Wyoming and Nevada. 9:30, you'll have California at UCLA, Fresno State at San Diego State. And the last game of the night at 10 o'clock Central Time will be Colorado and Hawaii. Wow. I don't know how many people will be able to watch that 10 o'clock game. So, anyways, it's halftime here in Norman as the TCU Horned Frogs are getting pounded at halftime, 42-16. By the way, the over-under in this game was 66 points. They scored 58 in the first half. The Sooners might get 66 by themselves. So, if you haven't already, please take the time to go like, subscribe, ring the bell. That way you get notified every time Old Man Nate drops a video or goes live. We'll be back at the end of the game to talk about the good, the bad, and if there is any ugly. All right. I hope you watch the rest of the game, the second half. And Jackson Arnold will be in. That's one thing. I did say he was most likely going to play. Surprisingly, Dylan Gabriel did play, and he's looked great. He has looked great. I didn't want him to play, but hey, he's looked great. The offensive lines kept him clean. He's only had one knockdown, and it was a cheap shot by the defensive player. He seemed to be fine after that. So, but yeah, I think Dylan Gabriel will start the second half. I think that they'll probably, Sooners get the ball first, start second half. They go down and score a touchdown. I think they'll bring Dylan back out the second series. And then sometime in that series, they will trot him off in the middle of the series, let the crowd give him a standing ovation, and Jackson Arnold will come in and finish the game. I wouldn't be surprised also if they do something similar to Drake Stoops. This is Drake Stoops' last game in Norman. He's a super senior. He has no chance of coming back next year. Dylan still could come back next year, as we talked about before in our pregame show, I really don't want him to come back. Not because I don't like him. I think he's a great player. He's been great for University of OU, but I do think it's time to move on from him. So, anyways, second half about ready to kick off. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the second half, and we will see you at the end of the game right here on Old Man Sports Talk. Right here on Old Man Sports Talk.